What if a city wasn't just a place to live, but was actually a single massive work of art? A huge architectural statement designed to project power and cosmic order. Well, today, we're going to decode the genius of Imperial Beijing and find out exactly how they did it.
And we're not the first people to be captivated by this. The foundational architectural historian Ling Huiyin called it an unparalleled masterpiece. And it's a structure so powerful that its central spine, its axis, still dictates the flow of the modern city even today. So our mission here is to really get into the city's structural DNA. We're going to see how 1,000 years of evolution created this monumental framework, built not just on land, but on the very ideas of power, cosmology, and control. To really understand this grand design, we've got to start right at ground level. Why here? Why this exact spot? The choice to build a world capital right here wasn't random at all. It was a masterclass in strategic thinking rooted deep in geography and ancient wisdom. You can see right here how all these different factors come together to create this perfect natural fortress. Beijing is kind of tucked into a corner of the North China Plain, shielded by this beautiful arc of mountains. Its position is just high enough to avoid the big floods, but close enough to the rivers to control access. So this spot naturally became a crossing point, the perfect hub for both trade and for military roads. Really, from the very beginning, this location was pretty much destined for greatness. But the city we see today wasn't built all at once. Not even close. It's the end result of almost 1,000 years of building, destroying, and then rebuilding again through 4 major transformations that literally moved the city's center around. This timeline really shows the dramatic evolution. First, you have the Qing dynasty who built the first grand capital, Zhengdu. Then, the Mongols of the Yuan dynasty came in, razed it, and shifted the whole city northeast to create Dadu. After that, the Ming dynasty shrank the city for better defense and, this is crucial, realigned its central axis. And then finally, the outer city was added to enclose these booming southern suburbs, giving us that iconic shape we all recognize today. Okay, but that Ming realignment, that is where the magic really happens. You see, the Yuan axis was flawed. It was interrupted by these lakes, so you just couldn't get a perfect, straight line of sight. Now, for Emperor Zudi, whose legitimacy rested on the mandate of heaven, this cosmic imperfection wasn't just an aesthetic problem, it was a political threat. So what did he do about it? He shifted the entire Imperial Palace complex 150 meters to the east. Now, I know it sounds like a tiny adjustment, but just try to imagine the monumental effort, the sheer force of will it would take to move an entire palace, all for the sake of one perfect straight line. And that single shift created this, a perfect, uninterrupted access running straight through the heart of the capital. It was this massive statement, both politically and cosmologically, declaring that the emperor was the absolute center of a perfectly ordered universe. And to complete this vision, they took all the earth they dug out from the Forbidden City's moats and deliberately piled it up just north of the palace. This created Jingshan Park, which is a man-made mountain. In cosmological terms, it served as a cosmic turtle shell, shielding the emperor from evil spirits that were believed to come from the north. Pretty clever. Okay, so the imperial spine was set, but a city of this scale needs life support, right? So now we have to look at its hidden lifeblood, the water system. This was an existential challenge in what was a relatively dry region. The challenge wasn't just about having enough drinking water. It was really about logistics. The capital's survival depended entirely on the Grand Canal, and that meant getting enough water into the city to float these massive grain barges that were arriving from the south. This required a solution of pure engineering genius. And the solution they came up with, well, it reveals this stark class divide that was literally built right into the city's plumbing. There were 2 completely separate systems. The public system, fed by the Tonghui River, was the city's essential supply chain. But the planners built a totally separate channel, the Jinsui River, exclusively for the imperial city. This was elite, spring-fed water that was strictly forbidden for public use. It was reserved only for royal drinking and for the palace garden. So we've got the location, we've got the politics, we have the logistics. Now let's go back to the masterpiece itself and take a virtual walk down this 8-kilometer central axis. This is really the key to understanding Beijing's magnificent, ordered space. Walking this axis is like experiencing a deliberate architectural rhythm, a kind of choreography of space. The journey begins down at Yongding Gate, establishing that cosmic balance. As you move north, you enter the incredible vastness of what is now Tiananmen Square, a space just designed to build this intense anticipation for the power you're about to approach. And this all builds to the absolute climax, the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the peak of imperial power. After this high point, the journey resolves itself at Jingshan Park, before finally ending at the functional drum and bell towers, which basically served as the city's official clock.
And believe me, this approach was no accident. The sheer scale of this space, which was once called the Thousand-Step Corridor, is one of the boldest treatments of space in the history of world planning. It was engineered to create this intense visual pressure, forcing all of your attention toward the sacred walls of the imperial core.
Okay, so now let's zoom out from that monumental spine and look at the city grid itself, because what you'll find is a system that's surprisingly rational and logical, even by today's standards.
So while the axis was meticulously planned, the rest of the city kind of grew with this organic logic. You had the imperial city right at the core, the seat of power. Surrounding it were the administrative and financial districts. Then the commercial centers clustered around the major archways. And this vibrant cultural hub developed for scholars and artists with guild halls and book markets. It was a city that basically zoned itself for power, for commerce, and for culture.
But what's truly remarkable is how this all connects. The network of major roads and these narrow hutong alleys, the traditional residential lanes, they form a system with an almost modern logic. It functions just like a series of ring roads and spoke roads, a piece of ancestral wisdom so effective that the ancient grade still works pretty well for modern traffic.
And this incredible resilience is what inspired a final, really powerful vision from Lin Huiyin herself. She argued that preservation shouldn't just focus on single buildings, but on the entire urban structure as one complete work of art.
She even completely reimagined the massive, forbidding city walls. Instead of a barrier, she saw them with an artist's eye, describing the entire 40-kilometer perimeter of gates and walls as a string of glittering pearls.
So her proposal was to preserve and transform this entire defensive line. She envisioned turning it into the world's most unique public space, a continuous, three-dimensional ring park for everyone, basically converting a 40-kilometer barrier into a massive public amenity.
It's just a stunning vision, right? Ensuring that this incredible imperial design keeps serving the people. And it leaves us with this final, really crucial question to think about. How can the logic, the beauty, and the wisdom of ancient design continue to inspire and serve the needs of our modern world?